Ating mga kaibigan mula sa media na nagbigay ng oras para sa briefing natin ngayong araw. So maraming salamat po sa pagdalo. Alam naman po natin na narito tayo bilang mga kinatawan ng civil society para bigyang diin ng malabo at puno ng pork na 2026 House budget at para manawagan sa Senado na buksan ang proseso, no? Kasama ng pagtalakay ng iba pang mga issue na sa palagay po ng civil society ay dapat talagang pagtuunan natin ng pansin. So halimbawa po, naniniwala kami na ipinasa ng House of Representatives ang budget sa pamamagitan ng malabo at minadaling deliberasyon, kung saan kulang ang tunay na public participation. Ang Task Force on People's Participation po, for example, ay binuo para sana maging tulay sa mas sistematikong pakikilahok. Ngunit sa aktual na proseso, nakita po natin na naging mabilis, piling-pili lang at halos sarado pa rin ang kabuuan ng proseso sa civil society organizations. At dahil po dito, gusto po namin i-unpack ang mga puwang sa transparency, no? Kilalanin ang mga programang maaring maging daan ng patronage politics at maglatag ng mga panukala para sa mas bukas at responsable na budget process. So, kung okay lang po sa lahat, ito po ang flow ng ating discussion ngayong hapon. So, if you can maybe share the slides. Wait po. Pakita po natin ang flow. Sorry. Nakikita niyo po ba ang aking slide or hindi pa? Not yet. Okay, sabay kami ni Ines. I can do it, Ines. Yeah, ito po. Is that okay? Can you see it?
Ayan, okay na. Okay na, ate.
Okay na po. Sorry. Wait, ulitin ko. Can you see it po?
I think wait lang, ate. Tapos continue ka
It's
na. Ito yung
loading.
mga question later. Oo.
Loading. Okay. Um, Sige po. Yun po yung flow natin, no, sa ngayong hapon. Sa bawat bahagi po, may timekeeping po kami ni Ines just to make sure we're all on track and on time. So, nakita nyo na pa po ang slide or hindi pa din. Kasi hindi din siya umaano.
I think it's loading lang.
Okay. So, mauna po ang context setting and framing ng ating pag-uusap na tatalakayin ni Haya, ang ating National
There
Coordinator
na.
People's Budget Coalition. Okay, good. Thank you. Meron po tayong 10 minutes for that. And then we'll also allocate 15 minutes for CSO experience with the Congress budget process na iniulat po ni Abigail Madalas sa ating Community Engagement Officer. Susundan po ito ng call to action ng ating co-convener na si Kenneth Abante. Tapos after po niyan, yung 30 minutes po ng House General Appropriations Bill or HCAB briefing, which is going to take the bulk of our discussion, courtesy of our technical analysis team. And then after that, we have 20 minutes for Q&A with the media. So by 2:05, we will endeavor na may Q&A na po tayo so we can end by 2:30 for the synthesis and the next step. Ayun po. Opo. And adjust din po natin yung timeline due to the delays because of technical difficulties. Pero yan po yung main overview, no? So, since we have a lot of ground to cover and if there are no real concerns, wala na po ba? Tumitingin po ako sa chat. So mukhang wala naman. Let's begin this media briefing by turning this over to Haya para sa kanyang context setting na pina-health check po sa overall body of the national budget.
Thank you, Ate Chinay. Hello po, magandang hapon po sa lahat. So, we'll request lang po either Ate Chinay or si Ines to continue screen sharing dahil po maganda ang ginawang visuals ng kapatid ni Miss Abs na si Anne Phoebe Modales. Si-shout out po natin siya. Next slide po, Ate. Ayan. Yung first 4 frames po, papasadahan lang natin siya kasi yung kwento po ay nasa 5th frame. So, ayan po. First slide. Next slide, Ate. Second slide. Third slide. Fourth slide. At ito na po yung last. Dito po tayo mag-stay for this discussion. Lahat po ng slides na yon is in this frame. At kung tutuusin niyo po, ito po ay isang cancer representation. At yun po yung key message na gusto namin i-deliver sa media ngayong araw na to. Ang diagnosing po ng cancer sa budget natin. Ang national budget po ay parang hulma o katawan ng demokrasya ng Pilipinas. Every department is an organ. May puso, diyan po yung health and social services, may utak, yan po yung planning, education, may kamay, mayroon pong infrastructure and implementation. At marami pong iba na parte ng organ ng isang tao. Pero kapag healthy po ang budget, di ba, lahat yan gumagana ng maayos. Pero kapag pumasok po ang patronage at ang pork barrel, para kapag may mga cancer na nagsisimulang kumalat sa katawan ng gobyerno. And what are cancer cells? They start quiet. They start subtle. Vibes lang. Pero mabilis dumami, mabilis kumalat, feeding off public resources and weakening the healthy parts of a system. Stage 1 po, kasi di ba may stages ang cancer. Stage 1 for early detection. Sa stage po na to, sobrang small anomalies lang po yung nag-a-appear. A vague budget item, an unexplained increase, a special fund with no clear guidelines. Kumbaga, bukol pa lang siya. Ito po yung early warning signs na may hindi tama. At dito po papasok yung civil society. Tayo po actually ang immune system ng demokrasya. Tayo yung nagtitest, nagfa-flag, nagtatanong. Kung may nakikita tayong kakaiba, kung may bukol sinasabi agad natin, Dok, parang merong abnormal growth. Kung pinapakinggan po tayo sa stage 1 na to, sa stage na to, kaya pa siyang gamutin, kaya pa siyang ayusin, hindi pa po laganap ang sakit. Now, punta po tayo sa stage 2. Ang stage 2 po ng cancer ay localized growth. Kapag po yung mga early warning signs na yan ay hindi pinapansin, yung abnormal cancer cells po natin, they start to grow. Patronage begins to take root. Allocations start favoring allies, not citizens. Some projects are duplicated or misaligned, while others are underfunded or delayed. Dito po, nagiging politika na ang diagnosis. Pero sa stage po na to, ang laban natin ay transparency at accountability. Kailangan natin ipaglaban na ang pondo ay base sa pangangailangan, hindi sa koneksyon o sa utang na loob. At this stage po, stage 2 pa lang tayo, surgical intervention is still possible. Pwede pang alisin yung bukol sa sistema natin through amendments, hearings, or public outcry. May chance pa rin pong gumaling yung katawan. Basta malakas ang political will at public pressure na pagalingin ito. Ngayon dun po tayo sa medyo delikado na, stage 3 po tayo ng cancer or systematic spread. Pag umabot na po sa stage 3, ay, ibang usapan na po to. Kasi kalat na sa buong sistema ang cancer cells. Makikita mo po to saan? Sa DPWH, for example, sa special purpose funds at sa insertions na biglang lumilitaw na lang sa budget. At dito po natin nakikita na hindi po siya isolated case. Hindi lang po sa DPWH yung mga insertions na to, yung mga magic sa budget natin, but in different departments also. Kasi nasa dugo na po ng sistema yung mismong patronage politics. Ang pork, yung pork barrel po natin, para po siyang nutrients ng cancer cells. Siya mismo yung nagpapalakas sa sakit na gusto nating alisin. Kaya sa stage po na to, ano po ang kailangan natin? Kailangan natin ng chemo level na advocacy. Hindi kaya na isang grupo lang o sektor. Hindi pwedeng CSOs lang. Kailangan tulong-tulong kasama ng allies natin sa government, sa private sector, sa academia, sa media. Dito po yung stage na nandito tayo ngayon. We must all work together to stop the spread. Pero gaya po ng chemo, painful po siya at nakakapagod. Confronting power, exposing deals, demanding accountability from a system that resists treatment. Pero without this intervention po, the cancer will overtake the body. Stage 4 naman po tayo. Ang huling stage ng cancer, organ failure. Ito po yung pinakadelikado. Kapag bumigay na po ang institusyon, kapag naniniwala na po, kapag wala na pong naniniwala sa proseso, kapag ang budget mismo ay hindi na instrumento ng serbisyo, kundi instrumento ng survival ng mga makapangyarihan, dito na po namamatay ang tiwala ng taong bayan. At pag yan po ang nangyari, kahit anong reforma, hirap po pumasok sa sistema kasi yung sistema na po mismo yung may sakit. And this is where we want to end this context setting po para sa ating mga kaibigan. Ang good news po dito ay, hindi pa po terminal yung katawan natin. Nasa stage 3 pa rin po tayo at may mga iba po tayong budget na nasa stage 1 and stage 2 pa lang. Wala pang nasa stage 4. Every report po na sinusulat natin, every anomaly na pina-flag natin, every coalition meeting po na dinadaluhan natin, these are acts of healing. Ang civil society po, uulitin natin, ay immune system ng demokrasya. When we organize, scrutinize, and engage, we help the body fight back. Kasi sa totoo lang, ang tunay na lunas ng cancer na patronage at work ay hindi simpleng transparency lang o live stream lang ng hearings, kundi meaningful participation. Hindi sapat na marinig lang tayo, kailangan may puwang tayo sa proseso ng pagpapagamot. Kung walang boses ang mamamayan sa budget process, para tayong katawan na pinatahimik ang sarili nating immune system. Kahit ilang beses tayo magpatingin, babalik at babalik yung sakit kasi walang nag-check. Walang nagbabantay at walang nagsasabi kung saan nga ba talaga sa katawan natin ang may sakit. Kaya kailangan po institutionalize ang espasyo para sa civil society. Hindi lang token consultation, kundi tunay na partnership sa diagnosis at paggagamot ng sistema. Kaya kailangan natin pong itaguyod na ang CSO participation ay hindi optional kundi essential. Hindi siya extra step sa proseso, siya mismo ang panlaban sa pagkalat ng sakit ng sistema. Only then can we have a chance from healing from the cancer of corruption. Thank you po.
Thank you so much, Haya, for that health check. No, so may comment po tayo sa chat, and it's a very beautiful analogy. So thank you for clocking the urgency. Sabi nga po ni Haya, hindi pa naman tayo terminal, so stage 3 pa lang. And even then, some of the departments or some of the body parts, nasa stage 1, nasa stage 2. At makita po natin yan all laid out later in our technical analysis. So thank you for joining us in our various acts of healing and helping the body fight back. No? So let's go to this next part of our briefing, which is the sharing of CSO experience with the Congress budget process by Abs. Take it away, Abs.
Maraming salamat, Ate Jenay, and maraming salamat, Haya. Grabe, for beautifully and passionately explaining the cancer analogy. And I think it's very important dahil mabilis nating naintindihan. Mas madali siyang maintindihan ngayon kung bakit we have to fight or we have to really engage extensively. As CSOs are the immune system, as Haya explained earlier, of the cancerous pork or unprogrammed appropriations, we are intent on engaging in every way possible. And we did engage during the House budget process. So I will be using this time to share about the CSO's experiences during the House budget process. And if everyone could recall here, magandang hapon po sa ating mga media nandito ngayon sa Zoom at sa mga nanonood po sa live stream. Noong October 13 ay naipasa po ng ating Kongreso sa third and final reading ang House version ng General Appropriations Bill o HGAB. At kung napakinggan po ninyo yung speech ni Congresswoman Mika Swansing bago ang nominal voting, mangilang beses pong nabanggit ang pagiging open ng House budget process at malawakang partisipasyon ng civil society organizations mula umpisa hanggang dulo ng budget process. CSOs were repeatedly bannered as proof of transparency and openness even when our actual participation was limited and at times, to be candid about it, even obstructed. Kaya kahapon ay nagpadala po kami ng sulat sa opisina ni Kong Mika bilang chairman ng Committee on Appropriations upang magbigay ng feedback at reflection sa naging karanasan naming CSOs sa budget engagement na ito. Una sa lahat ay pinasalamatan natin ang dedication at hard work ng CPBRD dahil talagang masipag naman po sila at consistent sa pag-extend ng assistance sa mga CSO representatives. Kahit gabi, kahit madaling araw ay sumasagot po sila sa mga message ng mga CSO representatives. And we recognize that even within the limits of their mandate, yung CPBRD staff po ay talagang nagtrabaho ng walang pagod. Pero kahit na ganun po ang nangyari, we still express our deep regret na despite all of these efforts, despite all of the attempts to include the civil society organizations, the participation of CSOs remained largely symbolic. Our experience revealed serious gaps that undermined the spirit of participatory governance. Unang-una po sa lahat, we experienced exclusion through last-minute committee and plenary hearing schedule changes. In a press release issued by the then House Speaker Romualdez, it was stated, nakalagay po doon, ang House Resolution number 94 aims to accredit bona fide people's organizations to enable them to attend and observe all public hearings conducted by the House Committee on Appropriations. But bad news po, the intent of House Resolution number 94 could not be more unrealized this budget process. On multiple occasions, yung involvement po ng CSOs in the budget process was undermined by last-minute and uncoordinated schedule changes. Yan po ang katotohanan ng aming experience. And notably, on September 11, the Department of Agrarian Reforms Committee hearing was moved from 1 o'clock p.m. to 10 a.m. on the same day, leaving our task force mapalad National Peasant Federation or TFM representatives who had already booked their flights based on the original schedule unable to attend. Ito pong mga mabilisang pagbabago sa mga schedule po ng hearings at hindi nakako-coordinate ng maayos at mas maaga effectively excluded the most important voices from discussions that directly concern the particular sector. Pangalawa pong experience, napakaraming opaque proceedings in critical budget decisions. Ang commitment po ng House ay mas malakas ang boses ng taong bayan sa deliberasyon ng 2026 national budget para mas transparent ang proseso. Pero kung totoong in-honor po ang commitment na ito, CSOs would have been given the opportunity to give our inputs sa reallocation of more than 255 billion pesos removed from the coffers of DPWH. Unfortunately, on September 22, ang Budget Amendment Review Subcommittee o BARSC ay nag-convene for a hearing without any prior announcement. Nalaman na lamang po ng mga CSOs na magkakaroon po pala ng committee hearing dahil nakita po namin nagla-livestream sa YouTube. So attempts to comfort the sector representatives were done by redirecting us to the live streams. Open naman, transparent naman. May mga live streams at pwede nyo itong mapanood. But we stand firm on our position that the live streams do not equate to a transparent and participative budget process. Kami po ay naging mga audience na lamang sa mga desisyong tapos na at nagawa na. So this lack of transparency prompted us to submit a letter on September 23 to seek clarifications and to urge the Congress to uphold its commitment to an open budget. And despite being acknowledged, itong letter na ito ay naipasa na po yung age gap sa third and final reading. Pero until now, there was no substantive response or action on this letter. We also raised that beyond these procedural gaps, meron din pong mga concerns na hindi na-address. Katulad po ng naging komento namin sa House version. We flagged over 250 billion pesos worth of pork and patronage-driven projects na mamaya po ay mas i-discuss namin extensively. And issues that have been denounced by a broad coalition of church, business, civil society, disaster response, and even academic leaders. At kahit marami na pong nag-denounce, and despite these very major inputs, they were largely ignored in the House deliberations. Pangatlo, na experience po ng CSOs, we were given token consultations without genuine dialogue. Sabi po, paulit-ulit na hina-highlight na ang mga CSOs are ang mga people's organizations ay vital in shaping the budget decisions this year and for the General Appropriations Act in 2026. But on September 15, nung nagkaroon po ng technical meeting with CSOs, nag-raise ang mga CSOs na walang oportunidad na makapag-engage ng direkta sa mga committee chairs during the budget hearing dates. And so, given that it has been repeatedly acknowledged that CSOs have consistently be bringing critical perspectives and on-the-ground expertise, we requested for meetings to be arranged between CSOs and relevant committees to allow us to brief the chairs and to really give substantive feedback and our evidence-based recommendations. Our concerns were duly noted and written in the minutes, and we were repeatedly acknowledged yung mga concerns na iminigay namin. Yet, the age gap was finally approved on third and final reading, and the CSOs without the privilege of existing lines in the House remained without opportunity to present or provide their inputs and lived experiences. Contrary po sa claims of a participative budget process, hindi naman talaga na-characterize ang engagement na ito with meaningful participation. Instead, it was characterized by minimal information sharing, interaction, and attention to CSO's inputs. All of these unresolved issues represent a larger pattern of exclusion. Panghuli po sa experience namin. Our last experience, and I think most critical and most notable experience, is that ang budget data na sinishare sa amin ay binibigay ng last minute in closed formats that limit quality participation. One of the key difficulties of budget monitoring is comparing and analyzing across versions of the budget. Budget monitors from CSOs, even media and congressional staffers need to spend days re-encoding and comparing across thousands of pages of PDF documents. Dahil ito lang naman po ang available at na-upload, PDF versions. So we have long called for the creation of an open budget transparency server. Similar kung paano po nire-report yung ating mga election results. May election dashboards that will make this process easier for everyone. Pero unfortunately, the House was unable to give us this data. At patuloy pa rin po sa mahaba at matagal at mahirap na prosesong ito. At dahil po dito, maraming mga volunteers at parte ng civil society who really endeavored for an easier budget process for the civil society organizations. And BetterGov.ph as well as the People's Budget Coalition created a pilot budget.bettergov.ph to show that this is possible. Posible po ito. Ang technology po na ito ay nag-i-exist, ang mga volunteer po natin ay ready, at ang kailangan lang po ay political will ng Congress para maging mas open at transparent ang parteng ito ng budget process. Kailangan lang pong i-upload yung machine-readable files o Excel files para gawin ito at magkaroon ng advanced na release calendar upang mas mabigyan po ng pagkakataon makapag-inputs ang CSO representatives. But until now, at natapos na po ang version ng House sa General Appropriations Bill, these are all unresolved. Taken together, these experiences illustrate the gap between the intent of participatory governance and its implementation and practices. May intent, may gustong mangyari, pero hindi po nagawa. Wala po sa implementation. It did not show the spirit that House Resolution number 94 wanted to achieve. Even with the little funding, kakaunting pondo ng mga CSOs, mga limited na volunteers, nagpa-accredit ang CSOs in good faith because we genuinely thought, it would foster transparency and meaningful dialogue in the budget process. But we are sad to say, and it's a sad news, that we have to say to everyone that the 2026 age gap and the tokenistic engagements left the community greatly disheartened. Still, we share the feedback in the spirit of constructive engagement and with the hope that future processes, dahil hindi pa po tapos ang laban, particularly during the bicameral conferences, can uphold more meaningful participation from people's organizations. All of these are the experiences of the CSOs, and we hope for a better and an open BICAM and for a better engagement in the Senate budget process. Maraming salamat po. Turning over to Ate Jenay for the next part of the media briefing.
All right. Thank you so much, Abs, for sharing our sense of gratitude, but most importantly, our frustrations towards the tokenistic CSO participation in the budget process. So again, we acknowledge the intent to be inclusive and the desire to be transparent, especially in the first stages of CSO engagement. But the reality leaves much to be desired. So it's disheartening. No, but we really hope we can improve from here, especially in the upcoming BICAM. So this brings us to the next part of our media briefing, which is the call to action. Ito po ang ating co-convener, si Ken. We'll be talking about our desires to engage the Senate to open the bicameral process and institutionalize structured, rules-based CSO participation, among other things. So turning this over to Ken.
Ayan. Maraming salamat po sa ating mga members ng People's Budget Coalition. Isang refresher lang po muna ng kung sino yung People's Budget Coalition. Alliance na po kami, lumaki na po yung grupo ng more than 40 civil society organizations committed to making the public budget equitable, inclusive, and participatory. We engage both at the national and the local levels. No, nagsimula po kami ng COVID-19 recovery and we've been flagging the budget and sharing red flags on the budget ever since then, including these insertions on the flood control and including the bloating of the unprogrammed appropriations. Ito po yung ilan sa mga miyembro namin in the People's Budget Coalition na nag-send po ng inputs sa House and now in the Senate. Since our last press conference po noong August, nag-outline po tayo ng trends, no, including the system of secret congressional insertions that enabled the flood control scandal. Ito pong slides ay i-share namin sa inyo so you can have a link to these specific slides and statements. 320 plus organizations and individuals, including sina Cardinal David, have signed our joint statement calling for systemic reform after the flood control scandal, outlining our demands, no, in order to prevent another flood control scandal from happening in the future, and also making sure that people are held to account and what our institutions need to do. Yun po yung paper namin. And most recently, we submitted to the House Committee on Appropriations our comments to the House Committee version of the budget where we called for an end to pork barrel politics in the budget. Since then po, there were a few wins, no? Meron naman pong ibang wins, no? Including some increases to the education budget, the restoration of Project NOAA funds in the House version of the budget. Kaya lang as both Abs and Haya mentioned a while ago, no, this is still largely pork-laden and opaque budget that has systematically excluded civil society at the House deliberations. Ipinakita po namin sa aming previous reports na hindi kompleto ang pinost ng Pangulo sa Sumbong sa Pangulo website. It only posts half of the value of total flood control projects worth 547 billion, pero the actual budget from the same time period is actually around more than 1 trillion pesos. So we've asked the President and DPWH for full transparency about what happened to these flood control projects. And even then, no, yung flood control budget actually ay maliit pa lang na porsyento ng congressional insertions, no? In fact, what is more flaggable, no, as items are the convergence and special support programs which AJ and Yoon will be discussing later. So kung nakikita po natin, tip of the iceberg pa lang po yung nakikita natin dito sa flood control scandal na ito at kailangan pang imbestigahan ang ilan sa mga red flags na ito. Since then, we've pushed for better transparency in both budget and procurement. Nakipagtrabaho po kami at lumalago po yung ating movement, no? Now including civic tech volunteers in bettergov.ph to create a budget tracker for worth of 6 years And also, we worked with PhilJeps and the Procurement Service DBM to actually open up all PhilJeps procurement awards from the year 2000 to 2025 Q3. So there are people, reform-minded agencies within government that have heeded our call for greater transparency, and we're working with them to be able to do this. No, both of these platforms are available for our media and our fellow civil society groups to check. No, we've also created ito po yung official PhilJeps dashboard. Ito po yung open budget by bettergov.ph. Um, at ngayon po, now that we've shared some of the things that we've done over the past few months, no, really trying to work hard to rebuild after the flood control scandals, meron po kaming tatlong key asks for the Senate on the budget. No? Iisa-isahin ko po. Yung una po, kailangan pong tanggalin ang 256 billion pesos in pork and patronage-based programs sa House version ng budget. So either remove them altogether or transform and reallocate them towards rules-based social protection and socio-economic development programs. I'll outline which programs these are in the next slide. Yung pangalawa po, at bilang kasagutan sa tanong ni Ma'am Maki dito po sa ating chat, we want to join the call in the House to remove the whole 243 billion pesos in unprogrammed appropriations, which has been used as a shadow budget to fund projects like flood control, no, including the foreign assisted projects, which had historically been in the programmed appropriations anyway, and its continued inclusion has increased, no, our penalties, the penalties that the government has paid because of the delays in these loan agreements. And also, it artificially increases our deficit and debt. No? At mamaya po, merong slide si AJ tungkol dyan, no? Responding to each of the key objections to the abolition of the unprogrammed appropriations at kung bakit po naniniwala kami and we support the calls for the abolition of the unprogrammed appropriations. At pangatlo po, nananawagan po kami sa Senado na buksan ang Senate hearings at buksan yung Bicameral Conference Committee. Napakahalaga po na matigil ang practice of secret congressional insertions, especially in the Bicameral Conference Committee. Handa po kaming makipagpulungan sa ating House and Senate leadership at ang ating civil society groups para po mag-create ng open budget transparency server na tulad nga po ng sinabi ni Abs ay parang election server, no, na pwedeng i-mirror ng ating journalists and CSOs so that we can restore our trust na yung mga pondong ito ay may accountability yung kung sino man yung nag-insert at kung magkano siya at magkaroon ng tunay na debate at scrutiny. At para po dyan, no, yung Civic Tech volunteers po natin ay nakalikha na po ng pilot open budget transparency server. Ang kailangan na lang po namin sa Kongreso ay yung machine-readable files. No? And kailangan po nananawagan po kami that we be treated as civil society, we should treat civil society groups as resource persons, not just as token observers. At sa bawat isang proseso po sa budget cycle, meron kami pong mga panawagan. So from preparation, legislation, execution, and accountability. No, halimbawa po, dito sa nangyari sa flood control scandal, yung diagnosis po namin ng cancer na kung bakit ganyan na siya kakalat ay dahil sa bawat isang stage sa budget process ay merong kakulangan, merong naabuso, at kaya ang cancer ng pork ay kumalat ng kumalat lalo na po sa Department of Public Works and Highways. Una po sa preparation stage, hindi po bukas ang technical budget hearings ng Department of Public Works and Highways. Gustong sabihin, hindi nagkakaroon ng tunay na vetting process or confirmation process ang mga grupo, no, independent groups to check whether the projects that are in the NEP are ghost projects or half ghost projects. Hindi po tayo sure dun sa flood control master plan. For example, may 18 major river basin master plans ang gobyerno. It could have it would have just cost around 700 to 800 billion pesos according to Secretary Babe Singson, which could have already fully funded those major river basin master plans. Pero yung nagastos po natin almost over the past decade ay around 1.7 trillion pesos, no? So gustong sabihin, sana pala ay nabuo na tong mga flood control and nature-based yung solutions po dapat natin sa flood control sa Pilipinas. Pero po, dahil hindi na check kung ito ba ay mga nasa plano, kumalat na lang po yung cancer ng flood control insertions dito po sa Department of Public Works and Highways. Finally po, lalo na sa preparation, napakahalaga po na mayroong commitment ang Pangulo na i-veto po ang insertions. No? Kailangan niya pong i-vet, meaning i-check, at i-veto. No? Yung kung ano man yung mga programa na wala doon sa tunay na major river basin master plans. The threat of the veto from the President serves as the best institutional check mechanism to the legislature for them to be prevented from the secret congressional insertions. So yun po yung sa preparation. Pangalawa po sa legislation, ano po yung nangyari, no? Meron pong tinatawag tayong practice ng secret congressional insertions, lalo na po sa Bicameral Conference Committee. Nasabi na rin po namin ito sa dating press conference namin, pero gusto ko lang pong sabihin na meron kaming mga findings na ipapakita mamaya that the net DPWH insertions just over the past 3 years were actually around 540 billion pesos. Many of these insertions were not actually in the flood control budget but in the convergence and special support programs. No, napakahalaga po dahil ayon na nga po sa investigation, hindi naman po siya nanggagaling sa tunay na disiplina na nasa plano ng DPWH, kundi sa mga sinasuggest ng mga contractor na actually related sa mga politiko. Tinatawag nga po ito ng Rappler colleagues natin na mga politi-contractors, no? Na may conflict of interest sa kanilang hindi lang sa kanilang mga distrito pero sa kabuuang ahensya. Nararapat lamang po na magkaroon ng open budget transparency server para easily po natin ma-report yung kung paano nag-e-evolve yung bawat isang line item sa budget, no. Magmula sa magmula sa National Expenditure Program to the House General Appropriations Bill and in between the House Committee Report to the Senate Committee Report to the Senate General Appropriations Bill to the Bicameral Conference Committee Report to the Presidential Veto Message and then finally the General Appropriations Act. Gusto ko lamang pong i-stress dahil po stressed po kami. Almost 1,000 pages po yung kailangan naming i-review lagi every time there's a new version of the General Appropriations Bill, no? At hindi po makatao ang proseso po na ito at napakataas ng barriers to participation. Kaya po yung pag-aaral na last minute lagi ang House Barsi sa pagbigay sa amin ng notice, that really means tokenistic yung naging participation namin, especially in the House budget. And we hope that the Senate makes it more humane and more inclusive and more participatory. Third is in execution, no, and accountability. Mahalaga po na magkaroon ng civil society movement for open contracting and project monitoring, learning from our monitoring experience from the election process. And we need to open the ayuda beneficiary lists for those that we tag as pork and patronage-based projects tulad ng AKAP, MAIFIP, AIX, Tupad, at ngayon po, Emerging Pork, ang CHED Tulong Dunong Program na kontrolado ng Kongreso ng kung sino yung nakakuha kahit na bawal na nilang gawin ito under the pork barrel ruling. And then finally, accountability. Dapat po may managot. We should empower the Independent Commission on Infrastructure, which is why we're here in the Senate now. Actually, we'll be giving a Senate testimony later in the ICI hearing at 2 p.m. Dapat managot ang may sala. Dapat maibalik ang nakaw na yaman through the different enforcement mechanisms of government. We should push COA to do special audits of the flood control projects and even these pork patronage and opaque congressional budgets, including the confidential and intelligence funds. And we need to build a strong open budget movement among civil society, media, and the government. All of these are underpinned by a general system of campaign finance that rewards politic contractors from winning elections. At binabawi po nila yung kanilang mga ginagastos sa kampanya sa government projects, no? At kaya po napakahalagang masuporta po natin, no, masuportahan po natin yung ating mga investigative journalists, gawin po nating libre yung lahat ng general information sheets at audited financial statements ng Securities and Exchange Commission. Gawin po nating bukas yung beneficial ownership registry na according to the PhilJeps will be open by January 2026. So binabantayan po natin kung ano yung data na ilalabas dito para po yung ating buong komunidad ay tumulong doon sa proseso ng pagiging immune system para hindi na po kumalat yung cancer na ito sa ating kabuuan budget, no? Kailangang maipasa yung ating mga campaign and political party reforms, no? Hindi po namin yun expertise, pero sinusuportahan po namin yung mga grupo na nagpo-push for a Freedom of Information Act, for campaign finance reforms, for the party list reforms, na kailangan po, now is the time to really take a look at these anti-political dynasty reforms that are critical to ensuring that there is an incentive structure that rewards honesty instead of corruption. Nais ko lang po bigyan ng konting detalye yung tatlong calls to action specific to the budget. So, ano po yung mga gusto nating i-transform at reallocate, no? The 256 billion pesos in pork and patronage-based programs should be reallocated to rules-based social protection and socio-economic development programs, including the PhilHealth. Sabi po ng Syntax Coalition, more than 240 billion pesos ang funding deficit under the Universal Healthcare Law. Hindi lamang po yung 60 billion pesos na pinaplano ngayon in the next General Appropriations Bill. It's in the House General Appropriations Bill. Kailangan pong restore yung inalis na pondo sa Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program which has a better and more evidence-based list. It was cut by 50 billion pesos last year. Yung education programs, sabi po ng mga ahensya na kinausap namin sa executive, they have more than 100 billion pesos in unfunded agency proposals. Kahit po tinaas na ng kaunti yung education programs from DepEd, CHED, and TESTA to expand school-based feeding program, the free college, among other key education reforms. And finally, active transport, bus and jeepney improvements na kakapiranggot lamang po kahit na presidential priority siya. Gusto din namin pong ibigay sa inyo yung listahan ng kabuang proposals ng People's Budget Coalition sectors mula sa agriculture, agrarian reform, labor, and other programs by civil society. Nais ko pong ibigay kay Yun yung ating sunod na part ng ating presentation.
Thanks, Ken.
Papalitan ko lang po yung pangalan niya dito sa amin.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ken, for walking us through the state of our budget and also a brief recap on what PBC has been working on the past few months since our last media engagement. So in the next portion, AJ and I will be supporting more on what Ken has talked about and explaining also first and foremost, what is pork? Across of Ken's and AJ's media engagements, that's been a common question that we've been receiving. And we wanted to finally clarify that for everybody. So what is pork and why is it hard to talk about? So every year, the national budget moves trillions of pesos across hundreds of agencies and programs. It's a very complex process. And hidden in that complexity are the same patterns of clientelism, discretion, and control. Now, the problem is pork barrel politics has become so technical and so legalistic that it's often hard to begin to explain why it's wrong or to even recognize at what point it's happening. a lot of terms thrown around sound very abstract. Lump sums, post-enactment authority, unprogrammed appropriations. But we wanted to reiterate that behind these technical words are very human consequences. With uh, pork barrel politics, people are forced to beg for ayuda. People that services are being used as rewards, and public money moved through favors instead of fair systems. I guess to help guide us understand pork, there are three ways that you can look at it. So pork in terms of patronage politics, a very intrinsic explanation of pork. Pork exists because of our patron-client culture, where political relationships determine who gets access to government help. So even if the PDAF is gone, this patronage logic still shapes many programs today, such as MyFIP, AIX, Tupad, and later on will also show emerging types and other agencies where they're also deploying the same strategy. In these types of this makes citizens dependent on connections instead of clear rules-based entitlements. Another way to look at pork is where it's happening. So you can see it as happening inside the budget process and also around the budget process. Now, legally, pork happens inside the budget when legislators or agencies keep power even after the General Appropriations Act is made or is passed, for example. So this comes out in deciding who gets projects or releasing funds through informal endorsements or guarantee letters. It also happens around the budget when programs are used to reward political allies or to secure votes. And we want to clarify and state why it's unconstitutional. The court said pork is not unconstitutional simply because it funds local projects, but because it gives discretion after the law is enacted. Now, this includes, first and foremost, lump sum discretion. So these are funds with vague or no guidelines, so such as support to priority programs or contingent requirements. Second is political allocation. So favoring allies or targeted localities instead of needs-based planning. And third is the post-enactment influence. To simplify it, this is essentially when lawmakers or executive officials influence fund releases, or this is implementation after the budget is already approved. So pork today has evolved into three categories. And so we'll be following the structure to kind of explain and go deeper into where the numbers lie. So first is the patron client style, so soft pork, ayuda style pork. Second is infrastructure, also known as hard pork. And third is the unprogrammed appropriations, which we will refer to as executive pork. And I'll be handing it over to AJ to go into these specifics.
All right. Thanks, Yoon. So proceeding forward with the discussion, no, we wanted really to bring attention to the issue of pork and patronage that has become intrinsic, and we're noticing this not just in this year's budget, no. Kumbaga yung initial na metaphor natin is nagkakaroon ng cancer yung Philippine budget natin. We have been noticing the symptoms of this cancer for the past few years, and it is manifesting as the pork. No? So yung first point po natin is the soft pork. We noticed that there are 256 billion pesos worth of programs in programs that are at high risk of political patronage that further the patron-client brand of politics in our system, such as the Ayuda programs, AIX, Tupad, Maifit. But we're also noticing this even in infrastructure-related items. For example, farm-to-market roads, even if there are now growing concerns, lumalabas na po sa mga Senate hearing, for example, na may anomalies din dito. What we noticed in the BARC hearings, for example, ay these programs are sort of the favorite of the legislators na taasan to reallocate funds here from the flood control. No, we also noticed the growing dependence on confidential and intelligence funds, which we know are very opaque. Ganun din po yung mga local government support funds. No? Another part of the pork story that we're trying to tell is yung issue of unprogrammed appropriations. We will show later on the symptoms, no, the data that we have that shows how big the insertions are here, how UA has ballooned over the past several years, no. And then, of course, number three is while everyone's attention has been on flood control, we really want to call attention to the other infrastructure programs within the DPWH. No, so there are programs, for example, such as the CPAG and the BIP in the DPWH, along with asset preservation, where Congress also has aligned its pet projects, its pet discretionary projects. No, so rather than having a master plan that prioritizes yung long-term resilience ng bansa natin, yung infrastructure plan natin, nagiging venue ito for pet insertions ng lawmakers natin. And then finally, as regards dun sa suggestion ng CSOs na magkaroon ng transparency server, what we really want is an open data system when it comes to our budget. We noticed several errors in the House version, the approved version of the GAB and the BARC reports. No? So this is why it's very important that we have real-time monitoring. We did notice a lot of lapses in budget documentation. So we'll discuss this, but the headline here also is si Congresswoman Mika Swansing has been talking about the education budget that is already over 4% for the first time in history. But when we did our own accounting, actually, a more honest accounting of the data shows that we're not even at the 4% that the House is boasting about pagdating sa education budget. So we want to to shed light on this. So let's go to each of the data points that helped us craft this analysis in the next slide. So this is the breakdown of how we were able to calculate the 256 billion. So yung 256 billion po, this is like a lower limit. It's a conservative estimate of how much of the budget is very susceptible to pork-like or to patronage-driven politics. No? So syempre nandyan po yung very ayuda-driven na programs such as AIX, TUPAD, and MAIFIP. Again, nung nagsimula po yung BARC na live stream, yung mga congressmen natin, ito yung unang-unang programs na ito ang gusto nila lagyan o gusto nila dagdagan. At the start of the process, we tagged, for example, yung AKAP, which is now being revealed to be a pet project of the Speaker himself. No? So yung ayuda programs na ganito are really emblematic of the patron-client system wherein there is an unequal relationship. No? May padlilimos na nangyayari, nakadepende po sa guarantee letter, kailangan maghanap ng local politician yung beneficiaries nito to make sure that they are receiving the ayuda rather than having a rights-based, rules-based approach such as PhilHealth and 4Ps. Dito po yung pinaprioritize ng lawmakers natin ng Kongreso. We also pointed out, for example, the opaque allocations towards confidential and intelligence funds. No, na this was something na lumabas sa budget ng Vice President, for example. But we want to point out also other agencies, for example, like even the Office of the President really needs to rationalize its dependence on confidential and intelligence funds. Ganun din yung Local Government Support Fund and yung NTF-LCAP. No? So a very conservative estimate of this would be around 256 billion because we're also looking at the infrastructure projects that are susceptible to patronage and pork and discretionary implementation po. No? So dito pumapasok yung, for example, yung unprogrammed appropriations and even some of the items within the DPWH budget. So let's go to the next slide. So yung soft pork or yung ayuda pork programs, actually yung insertions dito or yung dagdag dito from the BARC, 67 billion po yung total dito, no? Yung AIX, MAIFIP, TUPAD. And in fact, we're just learning now or we're learning from some people on the ground that even yung programs like Tulong Dunong program can stand in also a sort of a soft style of pork. So we haven't even accounted for that. So for example, AIX showed the biggest single jump in the BARC report. In the third reading version of the GAB, yung MAIFIP, ganun din, and then yung TUPAD. No? So yung bias ng legislators is really to allocate it here in MAIFIP rather than in programs like PhilHealth. Civil society really had to push hard para madagdagan or i-restore yung budget ng PhilHealth. If you'll remember, na-zero out siya in the previous budget and malaki yung binawas sa kanya. So we're not even compensating for that yet. And yet, dito sa MAIFIP, TUPAD, AIX, yung priority ng ating mga legislators. Next slide. So earlier we were talking about pork as a cancer, no? we want to connect this to the issue of the insertions. No, we are trying to observe the longer term trend, not just in this budget. What we are noticing is the pattern of large insertions in these sport programs happened starting in 2021, 2022. No, so this is not a new phenomenon. These are massive insertions. For example, you'll notice in 2024 and 2025, wala namang allocation for ACAP in the National Expenditure Program. Pero for some reason, Congress always likes to add 26 billion to this program. No? At dahil nawala si Speaker Romualdez, we predict na mawawala na itong programa na ito. But the point is, yung insertions na na-observe po natin in these ayuda programs serve as the symptoms of the cancerous cells which are the pork inside the budget. And this is not without its consequences. No? So you will see the insertions here. On the next slide, there is a cost to our rules-based institutions or social protection. No? So on the next slide, nandito po yung pagbabawas naman. On the next slide po. So if not, tumataas po yung allocations for these ayuda or pork-driven programs. Dito sa next slide po, nakikita po natin na nababawasan yung allocation for PhilHealth and for 4Ps po. So we can show that po. Yes, ayan po. So what you will notice is nagko-coincide po yung timeline when we start having massive insertions in ayuda-style programs like AIX to PADMA-IFIP, the rules-based programs like PhilHealth, 4Ps are starting to drastically decline. No? And again, without the intervention of civil society, we would have a worse off scenario na baka zero out pa yung budget ng PhilHealth. So this is the symptoms that we're starting to notice. Next slide, we will also see that it's starting to affect yung hard pork na tinatawag, yung infrastructure. No? So bakit? Why do they want to prioritize this? No? While everyone is focusing on flood control, and rightly so because of the exposed anomalies, it's easy to look at it because of the Sumbong sa Pangulo website, but we should also shed a light on the other programs within the convergence and special support and asset preservation. Dahil nabawasan yung flood management program within the DPWH, no, na zero out yung locally funded projects dito, ang natira lang po sa flood management ay yung foreign assisted projects. Tumaas po yung budget for other infrastructure projects like convergence and special support programs such as yung CPAG and yung BIP and yung asset preservation programs. They also have pet projects within that are related to agriculture such as farm-to-market roads and yung presidential assistance fund for farmers and fisherfolk and even yung irrigation projects. And it was reported on the news recently that there was a lawyer who was killed because he was starting to look into the irrigation anomalies. No? So dito po pumapasok yung issue ng allocable shares na sinabi na isa-scrap down ng DPWH. No? Naging practice na po ng Kongreso na nagkakaroon ng allocable shares na tinatawag. This represents the hard pork that Congress is protecting. Next slide. So ito po yung breakdown ng infrastructure budget. So we won't dive deep into this now. But again, we wanted to point out that it's not just flood control. It's also the CPAG projects and the BIP projects and the asset preservation program of the DPWH that people really need to start looking into as well. Next slide. So again, the symptoms are there. No? Starting in 2021, the insertions on the DPWH budget has been bloating by several hundred billion pesos over the past few years. These insertions are the symptom and pork is the systemic problem or yung illness na nararanasan natin. Next slide, please. Across administrations, we also noticed this. We looked at the time series. Again, it's a very recent phenomenon. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide, please. And again, across the administrations, sa Marcos administration pa lang po, we are just in the first 3 years now, but we already counted around 540 billion pesos total worth of insertions just in the DPWH budget. Next slide, please. Now on the unprogrammed appropriations, this is a lingering question po now. Why do we call for the zeroing out of the unprogrammed appropriations? So we made the point that it is a shadow budget. No? Na point out ito sa mga plenary hearings na nagiging avenue din ang UA for congressional insertions such as anomalous flood control. I will point out that in 2024, for example, they inserted a special provision that allowed, that facilitated the cash sweep from PhilHealth and from other GOCCs. No? It was through the unprogrammed appropriations that they were able to do this. No? So that's why we are really raising concerns because the UA has become a conduit for executive type of pork. We noticed that a lot of the line items of the programs here are still framed as lump sum. Hindi po ito itemized, no? Very vague and very opaque din yung klase ng programa ito. It's not clear which are the implementing agencies dito. So again, they could be parking their soft and hard port dito sa unprogrammed appropriations, no? And what is concerning, if we go to the next slide, we really have to dig into the details of this because what we noticed is the enabling mechanism for the UA is in the special provisions, no? If you look at the special provisions here, the UA can be tapped if one of the following three conditions exist: if there's excess revenue, if there's new revenue, or there are new loans. No, this directly contradicts the ruling of the Supreme Court in Aurelio, where it said na yung treatment ng UA ay dapat it's a standby fund when the revenue targets as a whole exceed yung targets ng government as a whole, not when there are certain portions only that exceed revenue. So the phrasing of these special provisions actually are violative of that Supreme Court decision. No? If we go to the next slide, what we'll also notice is the ballooning of the UA. So sinasabi po nila, can we include the foreign assisted projects in the UA? But what we noticed prior to 2022, no, hindi naman malaki ang nilalagay na foreign assisted projects dito sa UA. So it really is a recent phenomenon that coincides with the issue of congressional insertions. Yung unprogrammed appropriation becomes a conduit for the insertions. So pinapark dito. So for example, yung PhilHealth, yung social programs, ikakat siya sa program budget, and then they will use that money to accommodate yung insertions, yung port nila. Ilalagay po nila sa UA, and then they can justify it by saying, well, kapag may excess funds, ma-implement naman yung other projects na ito. Ironically, for example, yung Department of Transportation priority programs ay nakat in the previous budgets in 2024, for example, at nilagay sa unprogrammed appropriations. No? These are projects which are foreign assisted, so may loans, may conditions tayo, pero dahil hindi natin na-fund yun, we are paying the penalties for not meeting the obligations of these foreign assisted loans po. No? So this is really a tricky thing that they've been doing with the unprogrammed appropriations, and until they excise the cancer sport in the budget, we need to remove this unprogrammed appropriations, which has become a shadow budget. Ang hindi po nagiging clear ay when they certify na merong excess revenue, these documents are not made available to the public. No? So it's the Bureau of Treasury that should certify this. Unfortunately, wala po tayong visibility on it. I have not seen any document that they've made online for these certifications. So we have no way of verifying na nangyayari po o nag-exist itong excess revenues na ito. So what is the impact? DBM starts to have executive discretion on when these funds are triggered and yung prioritization ng items na nakalista dito sa UA. Next slide. So we wanted to say also that one of their arguments is that paano na kapag may emergency, no? There are already existing mechanisms in the budget, no? Meron ng contingent fund, meron ng calamity fund, which are lump sum, but they are programmed in the budget, no? They are part of the program funds. And if magkaroon naman po talaga ng malaking crisis such as COVID-19, no, there is an existing mechanism which is more transparent and accountable. That is the special appropriations or supplemental appropriations. No, nung nagkaroon ng COVID-19 pandemic, within 2 weeks, the Congress was able to pass a supplemental budget. So hindi po siya hadlang to address any emerging national emergencies. No, next slide. So we just want to wrap up here. No, again, yung current provisions of the UA violate the Supreme Court decision. Yung foreign assisted projects have historically been put in the program appropriations, so there's no reason to put it in unprogrammed appropriations. And third, there are existing mechanisms that we can utilize to address national emergencies. Finally, the last point that we wanted to make, and this is related to the transparency points of Ken earlier, next slide. We wanted to raise red flags in the budget now. So some minor things, for example, nobody has been picking up on this, but the House of Representatives increased its own budget allocation by 61%. Now they added 10 billion to its own line item now in the House version of the General Appropriations Bill. We noticed that there were concerns in congressional realignments in the education budget, specifically the Tulong Dulong program of CHED. No, it's emerging as a congressional insertion, na pet project na ayuda at the expense of universal and accessible quality tertiary education. And finally, yung last slide natin has to do with the education budget. No? So we did our own accounting. If we actually look at just the agencies and departments that have to do directly with the education sector, DepEd, Philippine Science High, SUCs, CHED and TESDA that only amounts to actually 3.6% of GDP. They might have done an accounting trick that they included yung automatic appropriations, no? Now, whether or not they program this will be part of the budget, no? Even if you add that generously, nasa 3.8 pa lang yung budget, no? What they did in previous years, they included agencies like the Local Government Academy, PNP Academy, PMA. So even if we add that, 3.84% lang siya ng GDP. Umaabot lang siya ng 4% of GDP if you include the budget of BARM and if you include the LGU's budget of Special Education Fund, which is not in the GAA. No? It does not exist in the GAA. So it's a very generous accounting and they have really used this as a talking point to justify yung naging budget process and yung naging resulting budget. So we wanted to flag this and we hope that this is a question that is raised in the Senate hearing if we are genuinely wanting to raise the education budget to 4% and hit that benchmark. Sana maging makatotoo po yung allocation para sa DepEd, SUCs, CHED, TESDA, and Philippine Science High School. So I think dito po nagtatapos ang technical briefing po natin and I think we can transition po to the Q&A. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our tech team, Ken, Yoon, and AJ for that discussion. Ken was able to recap the things that the People's Budget Coalition has done in the past few months and highlight our current 3 key asks, no? To completely remove the pork and patronage-based programs, if not, reallocate them accordingly to meaningful programs towards social protection, remove unprogrammed appropriations that inspire shadow budget allocations, and open the BICAM. So again, we're stressing these things kasi nga po, stress na din po talaga kami. While Yoon and AJ highlighted the inherent indignities of the AYUDA programs and the red flags of pork in the budget that require the people to beg for support rather than have rights-based and automatic access to public services. So given all that, we now open the floor to questions from the media. So Q&A na po tayo, no? So you have 2 options. Feel free to raise your hand via Zoom and we'll ask you to unmute or you can type your questions po in the chat. So yun po. Baka nag-iisip pa po sila ng mga
There's no
katanungan.
question in the chat.
I chat, ate.
Ayan po. Let me read it out loud. From Inquirer. So hello po, Park Kona Code of Q&A. Ayan po. Has PBC also taken a look at the allocable and non-allocable budget in the DPWH? And what are your thoughts on it? I understand it's been getting some attention lately. Some questions whether it's really being used for equitable distribution of funds across district offices, or if it's also become another vehicle for legislative insertions. Salamat po. So who wants to take this on? AJ, go ahead.
Yes, I can answer this. So this is related sa findings po natin on the on the hard pork, no. This is something that Sec Vince Dizon has recently spoken about na gusto na rin nila tanggalin itong allocable share. Yung allocable na budget na ito, ang understanding po natin ay kumbaga ini-institutionalize na ng agencies, ng DPWH, ini-institutionalize ng legislators ang magkaroon na ng share so that they don't have to do insertions. It is already allocable for them. Paghahatian po nila yan, they negotiate it, no? We think that this is really problematic, no? Because yung pagkakaroon ng allocable share reflects the fact that yung infrastructure na ini-implement or pinaplan sa DPWH budget is not based on a master plan. It's not based on evidence-based, people-centric, or scientific planning of the infrastructure budget. Ibig sabihin po nito, itong allocable share is driven more by political considerations. Kung sino yung congressman na malakas, kung sino yung congressman na malapit sa speaker, for example, most likely, siya yung may malakas na allocable share. We also noticed that na kapag kalaban ka naman ng speaker, pwedeng i-zero yung allocable share for your district. No? Again, that is not a good way of budgeting. That defeats the purpose of planning to meet the people's needs. No? So, tama, kailangan tanggalin itong allocable na sinasabi sa DPWH budget. What we prefer, one issue din dito ay opaque siya. So yung formula na sinasabi niya, they're alleging that there is a formula that's based on the population and whatnot. Hindi ito transparent. There is no document that outlines how this formula is calculated. Walang batas para dito, walang guidelines para dito. No? We don't know how these were calculated. These are not published in the GAA. So, tanggalin dapat ito, no? The system of opaque and lack of planning should be removed. Instead, there should be, like in flood control, there should be a scientific, people-centered master plan for these infrastructure projects. No, in the two administrations ago, they were able to avoid insertions because the DPWH secretary back then, Secretary Babe Singson, was very strict about this. If it's not part of the plan, the master plan, the long-term plan for infrastructure, hindi siya isasama sa GAM or sa GAA. So tanggalin na dapat itong allocable share ng DPWH. It only serves as a hard port or infrastructure port for the legislators.
Thank you, AJ. Ayun po. That's the answer. Anyone else? Meron pa po ba questions, clarifications in what has been discussed? Yan po. Feel free to raise your hand. Maybe si Sir Dwight po from Rappler. Would you like to... Ayun, meron na po. Is it a red flag when party list lawmakers with no district constituency are actively interfering/advocating for DPWH projects in their bailiwicks provinces? Siguro kindly enlighten us na rin, does the group have insights how party list lawmakers insert pet projects in the budget?
Yes,
Yes.
so similar sa sagot natin kanina, no? I think inherently, so I want to be clear din naman po, nasa mandate naman, nasa power of the purse naman ng legislators to use their congressional powers to reprogram or realign the budget before it's enacted. So that's legal. That's not a problem. The problem is if they realign this not based on the needs of constituents, but for example, either to fund ayuda programs that will strengthen yung patron-client relationship nila with the voters, or yung infra projects that are really not based on a plan. No? Kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng substandard anomalous projects because if they're going to put a project in an area, a province na hindi naman part talaga ng plan ng DPWH, suddenly may line item dito, suddenly kailangan may mag-bid dito, no? Hindi talaga siya in line with the long-term plan. It's going to be a substandard project that will not benefit anyone, no? So there is room for realignment at the level of Congress, at the level of budget legislation. But there should be a clear and transparent basis for this. So dapat mayroong master plan na long-term yung planning, people-centered, not car-centric. It should take into account nature-based solutions, no? And it should be transparent to the public so that we can also audit it, no? Para nakikita natin, even beforehand, even before the implementation, were the realignments or the amendments in line with the plan. So there's nothing wrong with it inherently, but given that there is no plan, I think it's very problematic. So I hope that answers the question from Sir Dwight from Rappler. And then from Mamaki naman, so I'll proceed. So Sen Soto said the BICAM will be open to the public, including observers. It may be held at the PICC, not in a hotel function room. So definitely we support this. Our call naman from the very beginning is that the BICAM should be open. No? Actually, yung usapin ng BICAM, hindi lang siya dapat sa budget. Dapat lahat ng legislation, open naman talaga yung BICAM. Because if you think about it, all the BICAM is trying to do is to reconcile differences between the House and the Senate. So what is the reason for hiding it from the public? What is the reason that there is no journal for this? What is the reason that there is no live stream of it? So we think it should be public, lahat ng BICAM, especially the BICAM for the budget. No? So definitely we support this. I think the Senate already is making good on their commitment to this. I think there is a need for the House also to enact this. No? So this was something that was called out. No? And I think yung Committee on Rules, which is headed by Congressman Sandro Marcos, is in charge of making sure that the resolution on the open BICAM at the House level should be passed. They're saying that they might not need a resolution to follow through on this, but we would really prefer that it is codified as an approved and enacted resolution. Para it's on paper. We can hold them accountable to that rather than their word of mouth lang. The next question from Mamaki is, according to Sen Gatchalian and SP Soto, Senate will push that only foreign assisted loans will be included in the unprogrammed budget. Soto expects this to be the beachhead during the BICAM. What is your position on this? Why do you think Congress wants budgets for Tupad AIX to be unprogrammed? So generally, our call is really to zero out the unprogrammed appropriations. Again, dahil naging venue na nga siya for the executive to exercise its fork, no? Hindi it's very opaque kung paano natin trigger yung UA. Nalalaman na lang natin na may flood control pala dito. Hindi natin nalalaman kung kailan siya nagagamit at sinong agencies, departments ang nakikinabang dito. So we really want to remove this. Their argument on foreign assisted loans, I don't think it really holds water because sa totoo lang po, yung foreign assisted loans and projects, matagal po yung planning phase na ito. So it's very unlikely na magkakaroon ka ng unforeseen foreign assisted loan or project. What we are pushing for is these foreign assisted projects ay ilagay sa program budget. No? Nangyayari naman na, if you look at the budget of the DPWH, DA, DepEd, DOH, yung foreign assisted projects nila nandun sa GAA. Wala siya sa unprogrammed appropriations. So it doesn't make sense that you would put it in the unprogrammed budget. In fact, that will only make it will only worsen the situation because there's the possibility that hindi siya ma-fund, no, if it's in the UA. And why do we think Congress wants budgets for TUPAD, AIX, etc. to be unprogrammed? Again, yung ayuda programs na ito are really driven by a patron-client culture of politics. What we are envisioning is a rules-based, rights-based social protection system. No? Hindi ka dapat nanlilimos para sa edukasyon, para sa kalusugan, para sa social safety nets or unemployment assistance. Dapat iyon ay binibigay sa iyo dahil ikaw ay citizen, ikaw ay taxpayer, no? Hindi dahil may kilala kang politiko o hindi ka dapat nagmamakaawa para sa guarantee letter. So I think they put this in the unprogrammed appropriations, many of the social programs, so they put this actually in the program appropriations at the expense of the other programs, which they moved to the unprogrammed appropriations. So you will notice that in the graphs earlier, yung tumaas yung MAIFIP, TUPAD, AIX sa GAA, sa normal, sa program part ng budget. And then yung PhilHealth, yung 4-piece, nilalagay naman nila sa unprogrammed ito. So among other things, at the expense of yung rules-based, rights-based social programs ang nangyayari. Sige, I hope that answered your question. Do we have time for one or two more?
So we have 3 minutes left, 2 to 3 minutes left. So maybe one more question po. We can answer it really quickly. Yes, sir. Sige po. Pa-unmute lang po muna, sir.
Yan. Marinig na? Marinig na po ako.
Yes po.
Yung hingiin lang, I'll just like to ask from the group some sort of action plan for individuals like us kung anong gusto nyo na action para we can contribute also to the group. And also, halimbawa, may membership ba tayo? May mga meetings ba or gano'n, whatever. So, yun lang hinihingi ko sa group. Thank you.
Maybe Haya can answer this.
Actually, feeling ko si Abs yung best person to answer
Abs,
as our
go
community
ahead.
engagement.
Yes. Sir Heriberto, so sa People's Budget Coalition, we have different organizations that are involved in the coalition. And katulad po ng sinabi ko, ang next stage po natin is to engage with the Senate. So the coalition is planning to visit the Senate as well to engage our senators, to give them a copy and to brief them with our alternative budget proposals. So kung for the sector of senior citizens po, if we could have, I'll reach out din po separately after the media briefing to ask then kung ano po yung alternative budget proposal for the senior citizen sector, senior citizen associations, so that we can also include in the alternative budget proposals that we'll be pushing for and briefing the senators with.
Okay, thank you.
Yes po. Nag-message po si Haya, tinag po kayo para po makuha namin yung number nyo so we can reach out po.
Yes.
Salamat po.
Yes, I wanted to answer yung question sa chat on the UA. I think last question na ito.
Okay.
So how are they able to use the unprogrammed appropriations given that we have been dealing with a persistent budget deficit? And then in line with that, yun ba yung rebuttal natin sa sagot ni Kong Micas Wansing, no? That UAs are necessary to meet our international obligations. So yes, ang rebuttal natin kay Mika is that UAs are not necessary. What is necessary is that we program these projects in the program part of the budget, that we allocate the money that is there to meet our obligations. Naging problema ito precisely in the 2024 GAA when, remember, that's where they inserted the provision that they can do PhilHealth and PDIC cash sweeps, no? What they did was they moved a lot of the priority DOTR budgets, which are funded by foreign assisted loans, into the unprogrammed appropriations. No, walang proper documentation iyon, meaning we could be reneging on those loans and we could be paying the penalties because those loans are now unfunded. So actually, hindi aligned with fiscal discipline ang paglalagay ng malaking items in the unprogrammed appropriations. It should be programmed. Number two, on the issue of how are they able to use it if we have been noticing deficits? No, that's exactly our question as well. We have been experiencing deficits since the COVID-19 pandemic. No? So it's very weird na the BTR, the Bureau of Treasury, will certify excess revenues. Ang wording kasi ng special provision ay as long as there is excess revenue in any one of the non-tax items, meaning it doesn't have to be the government as a whole that is in surplus. If there is one of them that is excess, technically, if the projection is if the actual revenue is higher than the projection, technically they can trigger it. That's our reading, no? So number one, that violates the Supreme Court reading of the excess revenue, no? Because the principle is the budget as a whole should be in surplus before you're able to trigger that, no? Nasa Aurelio ruling po ito. Number two, that's precisely the problem. It's opaque. We have not been given any of the documents that have shown that we have excess revenue. The Bureau of Treasury certifications are something that are internal with the DOF and the DBM. This is not published. So kaya din namin ito tinatawag na executive pork because if the DBM and the DOF can push for this excess revenue certification, basically they have another source of funds. So kahit may ibang agencies na bababa pa ang utilization rate, if there are excess revenues, they can move the money around to the items which are under the unprogrammed appropriations. So we're flagging this. That's why we're calling for a zeroing out of the UA.
All right. I think that ends our Q&A, no? So just a quick recap, po, we were able to set the context and the framing of our advocacy as trying to treat cancer cells from the body of the national budget, wherein different organs or different government agencies with varying levels of cancer stages. So thank you for joining us in this process of healing for every engagement that we have, every technical briefing. We also recalled the CSO experience with the Congress budget process and highlighted the disheartening realities of tokenistic CSO participation and engagement. Our call to action and our HCAB analysis is clear that we have a lot to be watchful about kasi nga naman po marami talagang hindi aligned at maraming questionable in terms of decision-making and allocations in the HCAB. At dahil dyan, nasend po ni Haya ang media kit natin sa chat. Nandiyan din po siya sa screen. So if you want to reference any part of our briefing there, please feel free to access